Good morning, viewers. It's the 22nd of April 2025 and it's Tuesday. And well, temperature is not an issue anymore. Looks like we're always going to have warm weather from now on. I don't know. You've seen sometimes there can be cold spells. Like I said, I was living in Germany and there was times when we were wearing winter coats in June. And I was in one time in Oregon, Eastern Oregon, and well, the year before I was staying there, they had snow on the 4th of July. So you can never predict the weather, and you can't say anything as far as what, superlatives or things like that. Oh, look, garbage! Well, I don't know. I think everything is probably cleaned up from, from the Easter. A lot of mess around. It's kind of funny, one of the big things of secret intelligence agencies, what they like to do to get information and find out a lot of things is they go through garbage. So, I don't know. I was in military intelligence, but I wasn't in any kind of a branch that, preaches anything about going through garbage and anything like that. I was never a spook necessarily, and it was mostly combat, or what do you call it, military, what do you call it? I don't know. But it was like surveillance and things like that. It was just, it wasn't a cloak and dagger sort of thing. Look at this way. I don't think I've come here, and I don't know exactly what days, but you see there are people kind of selling things there. I think it's probably legal, and they all come here trying to catch people going to work in the truck factory over there. And of course, few people go this way. Most of them go on another road. And there's so many people, and many thousands every day, building buses and trucks and things like that in the factory around here. So, but there are people trying to sell some things. There's flowers, and sometimes, actually I've seen somebody over there selling meats and things like that. And they have like a mobile truck or whatever. I don't know. Should I walk by here? I don't really like doing this. I don't like people staring at me, when I see somebody with a camera and it's something to stare at. So it looks like he has kitchen things. Metal pans, knives, probably cheap stuff. Probably found them somewhere. Very cheap and selling them at a little bit of a profit. Plastic flowers a lot. So as you see, everybody's looking. Let me go a different way here. I can make it through all these people. Hey, I need some socks. Maybe some garbage bags or whatever that guy was selling. Sometimes maybe they find these things on sale. These are a lot of them retired people, and to get an extra little bit of money. Honey, very famous. Honey is famous in Belarus. Somebody getting ready to set up here. If you want some plastic flowers, I don't know, are there any real ones there? Maybe. Yeah, it looks like roses. Anyway, let's go a little bit further here. Anyway, I'm going to get into some news, and there's a really shocking piece of news. I don't know, do you call it shocking or actually very revealing? And it's about something that Vladimir Putin said, very revealing. And it's about Ukraine and stealing money. So I'll get to that. But as far as some of the main occurrences just from yesterday, they're very kind of strange things that all three, there's two major things that are kind of similar but not related, and they happened on the same day. Klaus Schwab finally, as we were hearing already for maybe about a year, he resigned from the World Economic Forum. He is 88 years old. And another thing, the Pope died yesterday, which is also very big news. I don't see that there's anything really that bad about the Pope, except he was trying to approve of same-sex marriages, and that's a big no-no for a lot of Catholics. And maybe it's a thing he should not have actually commented about. I don't know if he changed laws within the Catholic Church or not. Maybe it was his personal opinion. But it's nothing I really want to even talk about. It's not my deal. It's like, for me, I'm not gay. I don't really like it, but I don't want to control other people and say, you're not allowed to be gay. There's something matter with you or whatever like that. So what I don't like, of course, is gay people going around and trying to force their way of life on everybody else, and protest and make it a big public issue. I'll tell you what, it's something like whatever you do in private, go ahead and do what you want to do in private, as long as it's not hurting any other people. If you two people or whatever are consensual, that's your deal. And but don't go around and try to make it a big part of society. Obama was doing that, saying it's fantastic to be a homosexual. Makes you wonder why Obama would say something like that. He's married to a woman, and Big Mike. I mean, not Mike. Did I say Mike? Anyway, Michelle. I don't know about Obama. Anyway, that's his deal too. But I think he did that in response to the fact that Vladimir Putin at Russia at that time, that's why he came out real big. Obama came out real big and telling everybody how great it is to be a homosexual. And a lot of people that liked Obama, I was living in the country in the Caribbean, and they started to dislike Obama because of that, because they're really against homosexuality. There might even be some that are homosexual and they're against it. I have met people like that, to be honest with you. But anyway, Vladimir Putin made it illegal to promote homosexuality, but he was not against. I said Vladimir Putin, I didn't say Obama, but he's not against it. So anyway, I don't even know what it's like in this country, to be honest with you. It's not my deal. So that's all I want to say about that. So let's get into some other news. I already told you about Klaus Schwab retiring, and it's odd that the Pope, he was 88. Klaus Schwab retiring at 88. The Pope was 88 when he died just now, and I guess it's something to do with stroke. He had a stroke at some point in time, maybe some other complications. We may never know the truth, even what they put out officially. You don't know. And what does it matter to me anyway? What does it matter even to Catholics? As long as he wasn't killed by somebody, and I don't think he was. Sounds like it. Anyway, at least it doesn't look like. And another thing that happened yesterday is gold broke the 3,400 US dollar per ounce barrier, and it's continuing to go up. It's going up very, very quickly, gold. And I tell you what, it's not even too late. This is going to sound sort of strange. If you look at stock markets or even Bitcoin, you don't buy it when it's high, when it's very expensive, thinking, oh, everybody's cashing in, I'm going to go get some now too. Apparently, most of the time, you're taking a really big risk, and you shouldn't buy when it's high. I did one time. I bought something many, many years ago because the stock was going, it was like, it was in Costco, that store, and it was going up and up and up at the same time with Microsoft for many, many years. People were making a fortune on it, and then as soon as I invested, it started dropping. At least Costco, it dropped quite a bit, and so I'm saying I'm not going to do this sort of crap. But I know, and there's people that do that with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is also a big risk. But gold always goes up. It might go down somewhat, and they try to suppress it, but the trend. And this trend it's not just a few years, it's thousands of years. Some people say thousands, say 5,000 years. Gold, it just keeps going up. It goes up with inflation, and it always seems to have matched it, and everything else that you invest in, it doesn't ever really match with inflation, but gold does. But what about silver? No, not silver. The United States, I don't know exactly what year it was, but at some point in time, they admitted they will continue to manipulate the prices of silver down. And it makes you really wonder, well, why is that? Gold is a safe haven for the most part, but more for people that have more wealth. And if you get to points where you can invest in gold, if you're not a rich person, you might really want to do so, and hold it like as a store for long term. I'm talking long term, I'm not talking short term. But silver, very chancy. And there's for many reasons. I told you that I bought silver, and I bought it at like 23 euros an ounce, and I sold it, I think, at 45 euros an ounce, and I lost money. Makes you wonder, how in the heck can you lose money by that? Because, unless you have it physically in your possession, and I didn't have the ability to do that, they charge you vault fees. And then it's up to them how much they want to charge for vault fees. And I was having it in a company called Heraeus in Germany, and then they decided that they're going to really raise the vault fees. So to the point of, like, say if you had 1 ounce and you bought 1 ounce of silver, and the vault fees are so high, unless you buy a big mass of it, you'd have to have a big mass of it. And even then, it's not really that good to even try to hold on to it for long term, because, and then again, they can even change the fees for that. They can keep changing it no matter what they want to do. And in Germany, gold, they don't charge tax on gold, but they do charge tax on silver. So I bought, as a matter of fact, I didn't have 1 ounce. I had more than that, but I still lost. And it's not like you lose a huge amount, but I lost quite a bit, even though the price of silver really went up. It almost doubled, but then I lost money on that. It's because they charge more for the vault fees, like I said. And the vault fee, like say if I had 1 ounce, that was my example, 1 ounce, what you pay for the vault fees for 1 ounce of silver, after 1 year, it almost equals the amount of what you paid to buy that silver. So in other words, if you leave it in for 1.5 years, you just lost all your money. You lost all of it. So you buy 1 ounce, you lost the entire value of that ounce in 1.5 years. They take more in vault fees. Makes you wonder, well, what happens when it gets beyond that point? Say, for example, and say you technically still have some silver there. Then you start going into minus. What are they going to do? Come after you with the police and say you owe us a bunch of money for silver, the value of which we already took from you? I mean, gosh, it's just a big scam anyway. And I guess that's aimed at poor people. So silver is the poor man's gold. And you guys that are watching this, and that's why a lot of people have sympathy for Bernie Sanders, how he comes out and talks. He talks like he's in favor of the poor people, and he's having something about oligarchs and all that sort of stuff. And he's one himself. He's big invested in the big pharma, Pfizer and all that sort of thing. So just stay away from Bernie Sanders. But anyway, and the big establishment in the long term anyway, they're not on our side. They're out for themselves. And so you guys have to all be very careful. You have to find your own way, and you have to keep that in mind, that they're out to get your money. It's very easy, because it is. That's the reason why. Because it's easy. Because it's easy to take money from the poor people. It's very easy, That's why Trump, he's kind of, even though technically speaking, traditionally, Americans should hate, I'm not saying they should, but as far as their philosophy, should hate Russians. But Trump knows that they're powerful. Trump knows that Israel is powerful, so he latches onto them. So he's grabbing onto their shirt tails. And that's why Ukraine grabs onto the shirt tails of people that have more power than they do. And like I say, he's Uriah Heep. He's going to put a knife in their back when the time comes. And I promise you that if he ever does, I'm not talking about just Zelensky himself, I'm talking about that ideology that controls those people. They will, without even thinking, put a knife in the belly of them. They will kill people just for power. That's just, anyway. You guys understand that watch this channel. That's what the whole world is about, and it's like you're not like that, so it really makes you wonder, well, why are other people like that? Who knows? Anyway, that's another topic. Well, let's keep on going here about this other kind of stuff. Sorry to get off on tangents here. Ukraine is buying from their partner in crime, Israel, large amounts of placenta-based radiation medications. And apparently, they said they're buying it at this point. They bought more in the past, and they're going to buy more in the future. But right now, they bought 12,000 doses of these meds. And apparently, these 12,000 doses are enough for well over 1 million people, for a few million people. And these meds, I guess what it is supposed to do is supposed to treat radiation sickness. Such as if there is fallout, and I really don't think that it cures it. Maybe it reduces some of the symptoms. I don't really understand. I'm not into this sort of thing, but it's like they're expecting some sort of radiation problems. Or if you wonder, there's been a lot of talk now about Zaporozhye. Trump wants to take charge of that. He wants Russia, who is in control of it right now, to hand it over to the United States to manage. And it's like a lot of people in Russia are saying that's not going to happen. Well, if you probably think about it, it's probably built by the Russians. It's always had some Russian management in it. And Ukraine is shelling it because Ukraine wants that for a large part. And trust me on this one, that nuclear energy was promised to Germany. And that's one of the paybacks for all of the big assistance of Germany to Ukraine. So just trust me on that one. And as you all know, and it's already been put out, and these are all a bunch of payoffs. And it's just like the rare minerals. Everybody knows that was promised to places in Europe as well. And that's why they're pissed off that Trump is trying to make a deal for that. So I don't know, So that's putting Mr. Zelensky in hot water as well. So anyway, that's another story too. Okay, I was talking about Peter Schiff. This is kind of philosophical. I was talking about Peter Schiff, and he's a long-term thinker, like such as for gold and all that. And when he starts warning about some of these financial problems, like that he says they're going to be a really big problem in the future. He's been saying that for many years. But see, like I said, he thinks long-term. And if you look at some of the things he says, and you're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and the stuff never happens, it's not that it's not going to happen. Like I said, he thinks long-term. He looks at long-term. And he was big into gold all this time. He's really against the Bitcoin and all that. And of course, a lot of people lost their butt on Bitcoin. Nobody that invests long-term in gold has ever lost money, when you're investing in long-term. Even if you lost a lot at one point in time and you left your gold there, it's back. Especially right now, it's back again, big time. So he's long-term, even if it's 10 years or 15 or 20 years. A lot of people will look at me here. Anyway, and one thing, as far as geopolitical, if you're looking at long-term, I like looking at long-term myself, but there's a long-term geopolitical sort of a relationship, and you see that it's like a lot of the West, particularly Germany, has a centuries-old hatred of Russia. And it wasn't a real seething hatred, maybe in the distant past, but it comes and it goes. Adolf Hitler, he was making deals. Stalin actually liked, Hitler at the beginning. And anyway, but Germany stabbed Russia in the back. Germany are the ones that sent Lenin to Russia to destabilize and cause the Russian Revolution. And it's a lot of things. A lot of Germans actually are looking at this, at history. And right now you got Friedrich Merz, and he's really, really anxious to go to war against Russia. And he's using, as far as for public purposes, he said, well, the French and the British give long-range missiles to Ukraine, and there's no war against them. The United States gives ATACMS to Ukraine, and there's no wars against them. But, the only difference is, I guess, the German one is much more effective, and it's much more complicated, and you definitely have to have Germans there steering this and using the targeting and things. It's just like the American ones, they have to use American satellites and all that. So it's actually, when you think about it, when ATACMS are used and they hit apartment buildings in Russia, it's the United States just as much doing it as Ukraine. Why? How? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's not like in the early days when Obama was president, he had to sign off on every single drone strike. And he was signing off on drone strikes that bombed children playing soccer, lots of weddings. What is it? There's the wedding bombers. They could make a movie with Barack Obama and call him the wedding bomber because he liked to bomb weddings, in Afghanistan in those days. And it's like, so what? They're just brown-skinned people. They don't have families and stuff because they're species, I mean, obviously the United States feels very similar to Ukraine when it regards other people, such as the Yemenites or, or like the Israelis, they at least come out and admit it, that other peoples, mostly Arabic types, as well as, believe it or not, Americans or Europeans, are subhumans, and only they are real human beings, and they are made by God to govern the earth. And it's only a question of time when they want to, come out and say, we are your masters. And it's just the same as the Ukrainians. But, a lot of governments, the United States, they want, just pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. No, pay no attention, Or some of them might say, well, so what? They give me some money. They make my life comfortable. And when they do rule the world, I'll be long gone. So it doesn't matter to me. I'm selfish. I mean, I'm a good person, and yeah, I care about the future. But anyway. And like I said, I'm not anti-Jew. I'm really not, because not all Jews think this way. But it's just these Zionist Jews. There are a lot of them. They believe that they are the masters of the universe. And so do the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians are just playing like the Uriah Heep. They're biding their time, and thinking long term, maybe as well, maybe 100 years from now. Old even Zelensky says, well, we will be the master race. We'll take over the entire planet. We'll rule everything. Just have to bide our time and play. We're so humble right now until we get that opportunity. And he's also, if you look at this, how he's running the Trump at the moment, he's not making any deals with Trump, obviously, he acts like he's going to make a deal, and when it comes right down to it, he backs out on it every single time. And he's an opportunist. He's waiting for his and it's his, just like Starmer said, and they have to use the United States. They're waiting. He wants to string this out until there's some sort of an event that happens where he can, and he's using every single event to try to point the finger at Russia, to get the United States to hate Russia, because it's imperative that they get the United States to go after Russia, because if it's even just Europe, they have no chance. And Europe is now really trying to get more cards and Britain is going into a massive buildup of weaponry and all that. They don't even have the money to take care of their people or nothing. A lot of that is going to the refugees to live in first-class hotels all over. A lot of people are really pissed off about that. Flood the country, and it's like, they think they need to do that a lot of time with economics, because those people have a lot of babies, and that's the ones that they want. So maybe that's the whole deal. I don't know. Looks like an old spinster, maybe looking for an old guy like me. Anyway, smiles and stuff like that. But luckily I'm filming. I look at all these kitties. 2 kitties. I just saw an orange cat. I don't know if you guys saw that. There's this one. He's kind of a mixed black cat. What you guys doing, huh? What's up, huh? There's 2 over here. I'll go over, see the cats. I hope you guys don't mind. Okay, let's keep on going here. I'm getting ahead of myself. But I was going on with this Peter Schiff stuff and how this is going. And if you look at this thing like in the not too distant past, as you all see, the West, well, part of the West, the United States West, they were scared of this huge potential monster, and it was becoming one, of Germany linking with Russia. One has massive industrial production, the other one has massive amounts of energy, and that's a marriage, actually for them, made in heaven. And so they had to break it up, and obviously that's one reason why Trump had to stop the Nord Stream 2, and he brags about that all the time. He stopped it, putting with sanctions and all that, but Biden, that this is long-term United States thinking in a way. So Biden had to blow it up to make sure that, that there is no link between Germany and Russia, as you all know. But, they created an even bigger monster, an even bigger one. And Russia, the strategic defeat, the strategic economic defeat did not happen. Putin even talked about that, was it just yesterday, and saying, all of their attempts to make a strategic defeat against Russia has failed. And of course, for the most part, the strategic defeat is, of course, to be the precursor for that is the economic defeat, to, destroy Russia's ability to pay for being a powerful country in all different ways. And of course, getting two birds with one stone. One, of course, is for the United States to get military control of the Crimea. I've talked about that a long time ago. This is all a lot of information. For strange reasons, a lot of people, bloggers, don't really cover this. And you know, I had information, I guess I have to admit, that I heard from military planners back in the 1980s, you know, about their dreams of getting, well, first, then it was getting Russia out of the Crimea. And of course, when NATO started overcoming all of these countries, of course that changed to them getting control of Crimea. And of course that's what it was all about. I don't know why people don't talk about it. Jeffrey Sachs certainly did. Jeffrey Sachs, you know, very very intellectual guy. Some cats playing here. So anyway, and Crimea was going to be a payment for the United States. You know, they're going to put a military base there. Britain has always wanted the Crimea for a long, long, long time. Of course, that's part of the reason for the war in the Crimean War in the 1860s. So, and Boris Johnson said, "Oh, Crimea, that sounds interesting." Oh, come on, you know. I mean, anybody that has studied history, I didn't even really study history of that area, but I know that, and you find an interest in that, and then you start looking. You know, that was the days of the Ottoman Empire and all that sort of thing, and Britain wanted the Crimea back then, and Britain has always, and then you can't like even Boris Johnson. I mean, the guy might be a couple bricks short of a load, but he's not that stupid. So he knows that, and he's thinking that everybody else that was watching him is stupid. And it's like, oh, wow, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, sounds kind of interesting. That's one of your long-term goals, you know. I wouldn't call them stupid, because, you know, they play their own people, and everybody, and they expect when they come out with something, and they try to sound so convincing that they think everybody will forget about everything that they were told and made to believe just 1 week before that. It's incredible convincing. And as we all can see, you know, Zelensky has lost a lot of his ability to be convincing, because he just keeps going on, and a lot of people are just tired of Zelensky. So that's working against him. A lot of people say, oh, they're trying to get rid of Zelensky. Well, you know, Zelensky, he is still protected by British, you know, special services. Plus, he's got the Nazis there and all that. And if Zelensky does not toe the line for the ideology of Nazism, which coincides, for the most part, with a lot of what his Western masters want, you know, he is going to be either assassinated unless he can get away. And I don't know that he can get away. A lot of people know where all of his properties are. He's got his bomb shelter house in the Caribbean. Yeah, is that going to protect him? I mean, I'll tell you what, some small island. Seems like it would be kind of a boring life to be staying there the whole time, hiding in a bomb shelter. I don't know. That's just one possibility. So anyway, let's see here. Oh, like I said, I got to keep going here. Yeah, let's see. So, what are the chances of peace between Russia and Ukraine? For the time being, I would say zero. I would say zero. You know, Trump is like, I don't know why he keeps coming out. You know, I mean, it's like, that's getting old. That's really getting old. You know, I could solve it in 24 hours. And then he said, that I can solve it before I become president. And then it was, oh, I'll solve it really fast. And then I'll solve it by the 20th of April. And now he's starting to talk about, well, we better maybe walk away. We have more important issues. And any thinking person, you know, maybe would have, I don't know, maybe I even suggested it back then too. I don't see, you know, the two sides are like 100 miles apart, you know, and there's no sign of them ever wanting to compromise. Zelensky, as I always have said, he wants nothing short of a complete surrender of Russia. The only thing he was able to maybe not continue to demand is that Vladimir Putin goes to prison or something. But he wants everything back, all of these territories. Russia first to withdraw everything, you know, and at least he got a little bit realistic, and saying, oh, a ceasefire. But then, of course, they didn't obey the ceasefire. And then, of course, he blames Russia of not obeying the ceasefire, you know. But obviously it was Russia that was obeying it and not Ukraine. And Putin actually yesterday said that they actually did reduce a lot of their activity, but they still did, and it was like still way over 1,000 attacks And they're still using drone attacks and all that, so makes you really wonder how much activity really goes on there all of this time. More garbage. It's not in, but it really makes you wonder. I don't know, maybe because this is going to go on for a long time apparently, and unless you're going to get some good and rational thinking people in high positions that are able enough to do things. And like I said, with the Hate Russia Club, that's very a slim chance, because the prerequisite to ever getting any kind of a powerful position anywhere in Europe is that you have to hate Russia. That is prerequisite number one. And if you do not, they really go after you. So, and as you see in some of these places, there are people that are rising up, and they're doing everything possible, putting them in jail or banning, anything. I've already talked about that in a lot of videos, and a lot of other people have too. Oh yeah, NPR came up with some fake news, and this is interesting as well. They said that Trump is ready to fire Pete Hegseth, but apparently, that's fake news, like I said. But what happened was, and then Pete Hegseth was even talking, that he said that there are some people that he said they fired them, and they're disgruntled employees, so to speak. And I don't, maybe they told them that they're on administrative leave, pending an investigation. I think that's what some of them said. But Tucker Carlson interviewed one of those guys. I don't remember the name, not really that important, but there's some somewhat higher officials in the Defense Department. And apparently Hegseth even believes that these people went to, I guess, NBC or whatever, and when Tucker was interviewing them, they said they hadn't ever talked to NBC. So it looks like their trick worked. Anyway, some of these guys lost their jobs, and Trump has not ever talked about firing Pete Hegseth, I guess. And these people supposedly, but it looks like they're making them panic within Camelot. I don't know why this guy is buzzing around here and making a huge amount of noise. This car is so friggin' loud. Somebody left their shop open there, or whatever, storage area. Oh, I'm going back the same way, but I wanted to go other direction, but that car. Okay. Oh yeah, I was talking about Pete Hegseth and all that. But anyway, they are the victim of apparently the machinations of the media, and I guess these guys got fired, even if they didn't do what they were fired for. Apparently, I don't know if that's going to help them by going to Tucker Carlson, and it looks like it's very true that they set them up, and they're trying to cause chaos within the Trump department, and there's a lot of that, a tremendous amount of that. So let's see. Oh well, I have a little bit more about that in a minute, but like I said, I get this stuff as the stories come. It has been released that Anthony Fauci, Fauci, he's one of the main people, and I didn't say he is the main, but he's one of the very high people. There's some very high people, because there was other people that wanted to make huge sums of money. Old Billy Boy. I've talked about Billy Boy, comes from my area, towards the Seattle area. This was formerly into software. He still makes a lot of money from that. But anyway, his deal is to make a lot of money. And of course, he was one of the big culprits from the very beginning of this thing too. But anyway, Anthony Fauci, he's a little bit less, but he still made a huge sum of money. And they were putting some of these dates on here about the money. And they said, I think from 2019 to 2023, but let's be realistic here. He was making the money, not really in 2019, because this thing all started at the very tail end of 2019, and I don't think the big money was actually being made until 2020, and maybe even flowing into his bank account till 2020. So let's move that date up to 2020, and then they put up to 2023, and of course making some money still then. But most of the time, this money that he made, which turns out to be $7.3 million, was in the space of 2 years. 2 years, and he's got some kind of, I think he was, what is it, all these institutions and government things and all that he was into, and you look at his salary was even very big, so, and he got a huge amount of money from the government. But but I guess his value from those 2 years was 7.3 million, and he had already like 7.8 million from. I mean, he was very rich from all of his things that he did even before that. It's really weird, you know. You're some kind of a scientist to get so many millions, you know. So I don't know, what is it, like close to 15 million he has right now, and then Biden gave him a pardon so he can just walk, do whatever he wants to do, and be very, very happy without any repercussions of all of the stuff. And if you think of all of the, I don't know, according to some, millions of people that died from his plottings and things like that, it's a shame. It really is. And this is actually really funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's a strange. This Abrigo Garcia, this one thing that the Democrats are really, really milking. He turns out he's a gang member, and I don't even really know what his crimes were, but I guess they're some pretty bad crimes. I think probably involves killing people and all that. And of course, he was deported back to, like, I guess El Salvador, if that's where he comes from. Anyway, El Salvador is taking a lot of prisons, you know, a lot of criminals into their prison system there and all that. And the Democrats are trying to milk that to say, oh, he's an angel, he's a super angel. I think he might even have kids. I don't know. But he did a lot of bad things, apparently, and they're trying to make him look like some sort of an angel and get him back to the United States and walking free, I guess, all over the place. And it's going to, if it hasn't already, that's going to make them look really, really incredibly stupid. And Newt Gingrich, he was on television, and he was actually smiling the whole time. And it's, you know, in effect, you know, what he was leading to, and it's terrible. You see a lot of people doing this, a lot of leaders or people in political positions. They double down on stupid. They get stupid, and they double down on it. You know, because very often in the past, you know, if you're a powerful enough person and you do something, say something, whatever, that's really, really incredibly stupid, cause a lot of problems and things like that. If you double down on it, I've seen it in corporations, I've seen it with my own eyes, and you double down on it, you know, it's sort of like making sure that you can pound that square peg into that round hole. You just keep on, if it doesn't work, you get a bigger hammer and you just pound even harder. So they double down on stupid, and eventually they're going to pound that peg into that hole. And I guess that's what they think they're going to do by taking, you know, defending some murderer, criminal drug dealer, I don't, maybe rapist. I mean, look at, that worked with George Floyd. You know, the new Jesus, you know, this guy that was a criminal drug addict, robbed people at gunpoint, you know, he even did porno films and things like that. I don't know. But anyway, and they called him the new Jesus. I mean, jeez, I'll tell you what, and it worked, believe it or not. The guy, he downed a whole bunch of fentanyl, believing he's going to get his stomach pumped, you know, after the police are done with him, when they find that he doesn't have any drugs on him, because he just friggin' took them, and he's just going to get his stomach pumped because he's had it done before, and it didn't work. So they took this guy in, you know, after that one Derek Chauvin or whatever put his knee on this guy's neck, and everybody's saying that killed him, but it wasn't, you know. And even before that time, which they of course deleted. I hope I'm able to talk like this on YouTube, say this, reveal this information, but yeah, they didn't put it in the film footage, but he was standing up, and I think he was even handcuffed, I think. I'm not really sure, and he was saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. He was saying that before he had the guy's knee on his neck. So, and I guess he's done that before. So, but no. Oh, we don't want to see that, you know. Black Lives Matter, all that kind of stuff. Black Lives Matter that was responsible for killing more black people than any other movement in history. You know, it's just incredible. Okay, the UK is escalating the hate Russia into the long term, like I said, with this weapons. Yeah, but they know that they need to get to the U.S. to join, and of course Starmer even admitted that. But they're still, what they're doing in the meantime is just like what has already been pointed out, what's already been put out. They're trying to turn the Baltic Sea into a NATO lake, and they have plans to go after Russian civilian or commercial shipping, to block it all off so Russia cannot, you know, militarily, they're going to come up with something, and they're trying to. They even took some of these islands that by by treaty, are not allowed to be militarized, and they're militarizing them. They're putting bases and things on those things. And a lot of the things, I guess, I didn't even know this, but I guess the largest amount of troops, Finland has that. And of course, they're right on the border with Russia. And, Finland used to belong to Russia. And Russia gave them their independence. And they had to sign an agreement to stay neutral. They will have their independence perpetually as long as they stay neutral. And of course, I don't know what the payment was, but they got Finland into NATO. Old Joe Biden. I don't know what they promised him, whatever like that is. So now they're in the hate Russia club. A bunch of stupid idiots. I mean, who would give up neutrality? They could deal with both sides any way they perfectly wanted to, without even they wouldn't even have to have any military whatsoever. Russia normally always obeys their treaties, always. But the West, they pick and choose when they want to obey and when they don't want to obey. And it's like look at Ukraine. They sign something and then they just completely ignore it. The Minsk Accords, and Germany and France just sat back. It's just sickening. It's not worth the paper it's printed on when you sign any agreement with the West, even amongst the Western things. You saw France, and it was Australia with this submarine deal, and they just disobey the agreements when it means money or things like that. I don't know. It makes you really build a huge wall between honest and honorable countries against all of these whatever you want to call them in the West. It's just terrible. So I don't know, you see some impetus why they put Finland and Sweden into NATO. I guess it was to do this, and it's probably been a plan to completely shut off Russian shipping. And of course that's always been a plan anyway. That was a plan of Americans putting that naval base, getting a hold of the Crimea and shutting off the entire Black Sea. The whole thing is to do this, and that is the long-term goal of the strategic defeat of Russia, to make sure that they cannot get anything in or whatever, and they will collapse. That's what the whole idea is. You can probably even look back into the far eastern parts of Russia with Vladivostok and the pivot to Asia, but now Russia's friends with China. That's a bigger monster than Germany and Russia, so they're going to have to deal with that one now. And I tell you what, Russia and China, they know that they have to stay friends. It's not even anything kind of my enemy of your enemy is my best friend, or whatever the heck that thing is. I don't even want to think about it anymore. But yes. And of course, let's go to Israel. Israel continues to bomb Gaza. Oh gosh, God gave us that land. God gave it to us. I mean, you go ask him. Go ask him for yourself. He gave us that land. He got his real estate license way back, in the old, a billion years ago, and he's a real estate agent. He gave us that land, and God said that. Everybody knows that. So get out of here, all of you people, species. Yes. Okay, now this shocking news that was put out by Vladimir Putin. I already talked about that a little bit, let's say, but what he was putting out, that the Ukraine, well, I already mentioned this thing about the presence and back there in the Crimea and all that, but he was talking of stolen money, the Ukrainian government, and I'm not sure if this is when this actually started, but it's apparent, and Vladimir Putin has evidence. He's not really broadcasting it out too loud, but he was hinting at even the amount that it's hundreds of billions of dollars. And for a fact, that Zelensky is definitely involved in this, because you see all of these billions and billions and billions flowing into Ukraine. It's like this race to make as much money as absolutely possible. It has nothing to do with really defending Ukraine or its people. And you know that because they just want to keep this thing going. They want to keep this money flowing in. It doesn't matter how many Ukrainians die. And it makes you really wonder if the Ukrainian people are, a lot of them probably know this, and they know probably by now that Russia is their friend and not their own government. And you see these people running around and trying to snap up people off the streets, come in big gangs and stuff. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of film footage about them snapping up people off of the street and shoving them to the meat grinder to die for their money, for their ideology. So a lot of this is not just the ideology. Well, it is the ideology too. So maybe that is the long-term goal, like I talk about, you know, this Nazism. But it's huge sums of money. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars, because it's just not that. It's not just that money that is flowing in from the United States and from a lot of these other countries, but a lot of this. And you know, and I've talked about this, and other people are talking about it, and you start adding everything up, that there's a lot. There's human trafficking, there's child trafficking, there's drug trafficking, there's organ trafficking, there's weapons trafficking. They're getting this stuff, and as Ukraine has even admitted that most of that stuff does not even make it to the front lines. So where is it going? They're selling it. They're selling it all over the world. They're selling their people. They're selling women's wombs. They have breeding places, you know, like underground, where they're breeding women, you know, for children. They're selling children, and it's weird. And it's like they blame Putin for doing this thing about this this trafficking thing. And you guys remember that. I don't want to even get into that, because this video will maybe be too long. I won't be able to upload it before my class starts, so I got to kind of cut this all short. But they're making hundreds of billions of dollars, and it makes you really, they can't even spend this money. All these Rolls Royces, you know, the biggest buyer of Rolls Royce on planet Earth is Ukraine. And they can't, and you see all of these properties that Zelensky is buying, these multi-million dollar properties and stuff, but they can't, there's so much money, they can't even deal with that. You know, it's like they can't even find a use for that, so they have it in lots of accounts everywhere. And Putin is saying it's one reason why Ukraine has to be friendly with the West, because a lot of these Western countries, is because they know that these people have the money. So otherwise it's going to be like exposed, like a Panama paper. You know, they had the Pandora Papers, the Panama Papers, and just think if that gets exposed, you know. You know, here they freeze the Russian assets, you know, but what about these people's assets in Ukraine? What happens if this actually breaks out? But anyway, that is the big news. That is really, really big news, and it's really shocking. I don't know if anybody's really going to be talking about that in the blogs, but I'll tell you what, that is the biggest, huge news. And I should have said at the beginning that everybody should hang on till the end of this video and when I'm talking about this. And I don't know if Putin's going to start releasing any kind of information. You know how they do that. They have a lot of people that are sympathetic to Russia and Ukraine, because they've been, you know, to a large extent linked for a long time. You know, and that's another story too. But like I said, I'm going to try to end this video. But this is all fascinating stuff, people. It's really fascinating trying to understand, you know, all the implications and what is going on here. And so, anyway, need I say more? A lot of you people that watch this, there's some, maybe you have to do some reading between the lines of some of the things I say. These are all facts. These are facts. This is not a bunch of speculation. This is facts that I'm talking to you. And these are things been proven over time. And of course, the information and the evidence just keeps coming up. So who knows what's going to be hidden, what's going to come out. Anyway, that's all I have to say for right now. And thank you guys for joining me. You know, I like the comments too, you know, and a lot of time it keeps me, you know, my ego up, or something, that you guys are actually watching this. And well, there's a cat underneath here. But anyway, so thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. So bye-bye.